Now, the African Free Trade Continental, the African Continental Free Trade Area is a key component of a project that was undertaken by the African Union in the early 2010s. By 2015, they came up with what we call the Project 2063. So smart politicians and officials of different African countries got their mind together to tackle some issues that affect Africa as it returns to its development, this economic development. I'll give you a specific example. It cost, till now, of course, the agreement has been signed upon and we're still working on the process of ratification. It was actually implemented in 2021. But for someone to leave Kinshasa, which is the capital city of the Democratic Republic of Congo, to go to Lagos, Nigeria, which is closer than Belgium or closer than London, it costs more money by air and by road. And that's just, I'm not talking about commercial flight. I'm not talking about, moving goods and services. I'm talking about somebody to go into a plane and travel to Nigeria. They'll spend about $700, sometimes, depending on the market, $1,000. When it costs them $400 or $500 to go to Belgium or London, round trip. So Africa, for those who probably know, have inherited colonial borders, which in turn became an issue after we took independence. Some of us, and it's funny because I used to be also one of those people that was very nationalistic, I had this national tendency, right? We need to keep our stuff in Congo, making sure that we can take care of our own first before opening up to everybody else, not realizing that all of those talk and all of those preconceived ideas were just inheritance for colonial things that we never actually planned and we actually inherited without analyzing. So fast forward, the African Union began to realize that it cost a lot to do intra-trade businesses between African countries. And they decided to now tackle that issue. And it takes a lot of different key elements for those issues to be tackled. One of them is the African Continental Free Trade Area. And another picture that I want you guys to have, Africa alone can take the US, China, and the entire Europe and still have some leftover of land. So it gives you an idea of how big that market is. So numbers, here are the numbers. 1.3 to 1.5 billion people, not just billion people, a billion young men and women, population between the age of 15 to 30. So it's a vibrant population compared to other markets. That market that we're discussing, it's 55 countries, of course, accepting to get rid of these borders that don't benefit them. They're just ideologicals. And therefore opening up a market that anybody who wants to do business in Africa can tap in. And the numbers, the most recent number that have been thrown out there, we're talking about $3.5 trillion of markets. And which was not gonna be possible if we don't get rid of those barriers. So the African, to your question again, the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's very essential because it allows people to now not just be cornered on a specific country to do their business. They can actually, you can have a factory in the DRC while doing businesses in Zambia. I heard the lady earlier asking that question. I was waiting for this moment to answer that. We talked about regulations and stuff. Well, this is what this Africa Continental Free Trade Area will address. They're still working on it. There's a lot of policy that have to be put in place. But what's important for people like us who are in entrepreneurship, who are small and medium businesses, is to know that the opportunity is there. And this opportunity, we need to work in synergy to talk to companies that have already established themselves in Africa or international advisory services like Maele Solutions to see what area and what market you can actually tap into if you have the means. And we'll probably talk about that later on. There are also services here that will allow you to facilitate that move if you're an American citizen with your business here in America and you are interested to go to Africa. One of those institutions are the DFC, the Development Finance Corporation, and we have the Small Business Administration, believe it or not, have program to help companies, small and medium businesses here in the US to go overseas. Of course, overseas everywhere, in Asia and Europe, but also in Africa.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. On that same question, and relating it back to AI as well, how can small and medium-sized businesses use AI to access new markets made possible by the African Continental Free Trade Area? I'll start with you, Serge, and then if you'll answer, Sarah.
All right, she's the expert, but I will highlight some key points here. Now, for those who have been very in touch with what's going on in Africa right now with the new administration, you may have heard of the US Congo critical mineral deal. That is ongoing. But what is actually already in action is the Lobito corridor that goes from Zambia through the DRC and all the way to an Atlantic port in Angola. Now, it's interesting you're asking that question. Angola, they speak Portuguese. Congo, the main language, of course, the official language is French. We have more than 400 languages, believe it or not. But one of the good things, I guess I should say that, of colonization is that we were able to also inherit language that can actually be spoken by all these different tribes. So French is one of them, Portuguese is one of them, and English is one of them. French is actually the number one. A lot of people don't know this. It's the number one in terms of populations and access to markets spoken language in Africa. But it is an untapped market because you will notice that business savvy or business culture usually come from Anglo-Saxon countries, like the US and United Kingdom. And we leave out countries like Francophone countries where they mainly speak French, like Congo. Now, to your question, I'll just give an example and I'll let Sarah fill in with more example. If you're an American business and you want to go to Congo right now, I don't want you to feel like you have interest in terms of language of barrier, where you say, and you're in the workforce, oh, well, how am I going to go over there and start training these people in French and I want to get tapped into this, because the Lobito corridor is $9 billion already invested. They need people in IT, construction is being built, they need people in healthcare, they need people in real estate development, because it's going to be a whole new area that's going to be developed by just having the corridor.
Are y'all listening to this?
So,
this is huge.
So you got to go to Congo. How do you train people if you don't speak French? Well, you may want to hire people that also speak French that live here. That is true. But we ask, the theme of the conference is, how does AI accelerate this easily? Well, if you open your Facebook or your Instagram, you will see all kinds of AI ads that always advertise multi-language I guess it's called AI Dub, and I'll let her explain that more, where you can actually today create your training, with the guideline that you perhaps with the standard of the United States here, but have that put through an AI system that will translate it easily in French, in Portuguese, and perhaps some of the local languages. And I'm sure there are some engineers out here that can actually take informations from the local languages to create a software that can facilitate that. So right there, already, you can save a lot of money and a lot of time by utilizing AI to break the barrier of multi-language, to break the barrier of languages in markets that you wouldn't be otherwise interested, because you feel like, okay, that's not a country that I understand and they don't speak the same language, so I'll just go look elsewhere. But then you'll be leaving $9 billion on the table. That's just for the Lobito corridor. And the US DRC deal, which is still downloading, it's a different story, but we'll get to that at some point. You want
On
to
that
add?
same note,
Yeah.
Sarah, will you please, thank you, Serge. Was that impactful or what?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, it was a really complete answer, is again highlighting the language barrier, right, of being able to use AI to help bridge that gap on the language side, but even opening up new insights. I think in the icebreaker, someone wanted to know how to use AI for helping understand regulations and helping understand the opportunities now under new policies and new guidelines, and AI can do that now, help open up for my own business, what are some opportunities for me to leverage now within these new policies and this new landscape. So it can be incredibly powerful for even a very small business owner to be able to understand where are those opportunities now. It's not just, AI is not just for large enterprises, corporations. I mean, the smallest business can use AI to be able to gain those insights.
Thank you. Setting the stage here. This is a question for both of you. How do you see AI overall transforming Africa's business landscape over the next 10 years? Sarah, we'll start.
I have my cheat sheet with some statistics, given the economic impact of this. So I'm an economics nerd as well. So I thought this was very impactful. So if African businesses were to capture just 10% of the global AI market, AI could contribute up to an additional 1.5 trillion to African economy by 2030. This is about half of the current GDP in the continent of Africa. So the opportunity in Africa is massive to leverage AI. And when I think about the next 5 years, I want to think about it almost as a roadmap and a plan of how do we really get there. I think it really all starts with having the right infrastructure, investment in infrastructure, right? You've got to have data centers, cloud computing, availability for these AI ecosystems and innovation hubs to really thrive. So I think really starting on that infrastructure investment side to give African countries that backbone to develop startups and new solutions on African soil. Now, also, education is so important, as we were chatting about earlier. You've got to have the right education in place to really help level up, upskill, right? Your workforce, your students now, that comes with that infrastructure as well, right? Being able to train locals on how to use this technology really impactfully in your business, in school. I mean, there's a huge demand, as we've seen, in the AI job market to be able to use these AI skills now. There's now workers and students who are hungry to learn these skills, so education is really the bridge to that gap. So we can talk about education for a while. I think we're going to talk about that later, but that's a huge part of the roadmap to get there. But also from a government standpoint is establishing the policies to open up innovation and having that friendly environment for innovation in AI on a government level. But also bridging that gap and making sure we're also balancing the responsible lens of AI. So having that fine balance of policies and regulations where we're not stifling innovation necessarily, but but we're also making sure we're using AI in the most responsible and ethical way. That's very, very key, and that's going to be very, very powerful for Africa in growing in this and taking advantage of these amazing opportunities.
Serge, do you have anything else
Yeah.
to add to
Repeat
that?
that question again?
Very thorough, very thorough.
Yeah, just repeat that
Oh.
question.
Okay.
I got a couple of ideas to add on what she said, but I'm not sure I answered the question.
Basically, in a nutshell, over the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see AI benefiting small businesses and individuals? Over the next 5 to 10 years, how will AI impact Africa?
Okay, so I started by giving a good example on workforce training. Right there, right off the gate, it's going to be a big deal. But then again, there are many other layers. She probably covered it in general. Data, statistics is still an issue in Africa as we speak, but it doesn't mean that it is an issue that can be remedied, meaning we don't have the classical way of collecting data the way, most developed, we will call them, like their country do, right? Because it takes a lot of money to classically collect data. We have department here that spend billion of dollars just to do, census and so on and so forth. But these data are there. They're not collected. Sometimes they're fragmented. AI, and I'm sure she has technical terms to explain that, can actually be can actually be utilized to take data that will be otherwise fragmented and consolidate them. And we're still on the software side. On the hardware side, the challenges of Africa, I look at them as opportunity. We have issue with roads. Well, everybody wants to talk about the new era of the new revolutions. It's the digital revolution, right? We need to start building digital infrastructure innovatively. And there's a project that Maela Solution is working on right now on micro data center, meaning that instead of building a $2 billion classic data center that you've probably heard of from Google and AWS from Amazon, you have these data centers containerized using node system to actually provide the same exact service for data center that is very huge in telecommunication. We still spend more money in Africa transiting from data center in Europe. And South Africa is probably one of the rarest countries that still have those classic data centers. But we have to, so just imagine when you send a text message, a WhatsApp text message to somebody in Africa, he has to go to Europe and then go to Nigeria or Congo. Well, there goes an opportunity. If you can have a micro data centers for a fraction of the 2 billion, company can actually start diving into it and benefit at least the next 5 to 10 years. So Africa is pretty much a landscape for pioneers, people that want to bring innovative solutions. And you will hear this all often. There's a lot of risk. Well, guess what? With high risk comes high return. You have to keep that in mind, because if you're just looking for the challenges, you're going to miss out on the opportunity. So it depends on what you're looking for. You want to go ahead and go into a market where nobody's there yet, you can go ahead and lay out the ground and make your high return while you still can in the next 5 to 10 years. That's how I can answer that question.
Thank you. Very insightful, very insightful. Here's a question on that same note, talking about the workforce and some of the changes. Many people say AI is going to take over. We won't have any jobs because of AI. Let's talk a little bit about that, because Serge, the way that you're discussing, you're talking about new opportunities, possible new jobs. So what jobs are going away what should the average small business owner and individual invest in for themselves, the type of education that they need, right? What's going away, what's staying, and what does the future look like as it relates to AI and education? And we'll start with you, Sarah, first.
Yes, this is a question I get often. People are very afraid of AI. They're like, it's going to take my job, it's going to take over the world. I'm terrified of this AI stuff. So, something I've gotten quite a lot. I actually spoke earlier this year at the Future of Work Expo, where we had experts from all around the world coming to talk about this very specific topic about AI and like, what does the future job market really look like here? And really what it boils down to is three main impacts that you're going to see the future of work. The first one is there are going to be some roles that are just not relevant anymore. You know, I think back to when the internet was first created, you know, way before then, there were people who wrote memos on pieces of paper and they ran them around offices. Like, that job doesn't exist anymore, right? So there's going to be some things that we're going to see more maybe clerical, data entry type of roles that are just not going to be relevant anymore within this new AI era. The second big impact, which is probably going to be the biggest bucket of jobs and workers, is going to be an augmented use of AI. So using AI with your role. I think back to my first job out of college, I was a data analyst, and it took probably 90% of my job was moving data from this database to this one, reconciling the information, and AI can handle all of that now, which is the beauty of using AI with your job, is being able to give the machines, let the machines do what they do best, and let humans do what we do best, and understand the information, doing more of that analysis, and really having the human in the loop. But then the third opportunity, the third biggest impact, which we were touching on a little bit ago, is there's going to be so many new jobs being created. There's this new opportunities now being created in this AI, this future of work in this AI world that we're in. Things like prompt engineers and AI ethicists and AI advisors like me. I mean, there are so many new roles being created all the time, and we don't even know the full breadth of what those will look like. I mean, when you think about previous technology evolutions, I mean, electricity took around 50 years to really roll out. The internet took about 20 years to roll out across industries, and generative AI has taken just weeks to reach millions of users. So this technology is rapidly changing and rapidly evolving, so we need to continue to educate ourselves, continue to learn, and stay on top of all of this. But this is the future landscape of work that we're expecting to see.
So, as for Africa, I think it's a little paradoxal. What do I mean by that? In the general landscape of the world, you know, that fear may make sense. We're still at the level of trying to create those jobs. We're not worrying about jobs that we will lose. We instead looking and impatiently crying for these jobs that we can have. The real estate development project that I'm working on, statistic lacking, you have a lot of people that may be afraid of going to a country like the DRC to invest in real estate development, just by looking at an overall picture of the country in terms of GDP and GDP per capita. But what they don't realize, and that's where AI sometimes helps, is AI can actually segregate this data and tell you, no, for a city of Kinshasa, this is how many housing that you have available, and this GDP that you see little is actually concentrated among the top 10%. And there is an opportunity for those who can have right now money to invest in real estate development. People that are involved in, I have my friend over there, Kathy, who's involved in real estate development here in the US. And they understand that in the US we're talking, I think she was educating me last time about if somebody tells you they give you more than 7% or more than 10% when you invest in, they're probably trying to scam you.
Whoa.
But see, there's this plateau that we've reached in developed countries. But in a city like Kinshasa, because of lack of real estate availability, we have this high demand that opens up a whole new market. And guess what? When you have investors that are afraid to invest, these jobs won't go away because we will have more builders now. We'll have more houses needed to be built because AI came and gave us the right pictures and the right risk, because we shouldn't just talk about risk that we've invented in our head. You hear a lot of people saying, well, I can't go to Africa because of this, because of that. But 9 out of 10 times, it's half of the truth. It's actually half of the story. It's not the whole truth. But with AI, with information that will be consolidated, augmented, we'll be able to now, how should I put it? We'll be able to create a clear picture that can actually help investors see where they can make their money and what are the risks that they probably can run into and how to mitigate them.
Thank you. This brings us to our next question. And actually, this is a member question. What policies should governments adopt to support responsible, Sarah, you mentioned responsible earlier, responsible AI use in business? We'll start with you, Sarah.
Thank you. Yes, it's a very, very important topic. And I mentioned earlier finding that balance of the right regulations and policies, not to stifle innovation with AI, but also ensuring that we are protecting our citizens, protecting our customers and business, and really making sure we are using AI in the most responsible way. It's very, very important. I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard of things like deep fakes. I was deep faked on a phone call not that long ago, and I work in AI and I see it all the time, and it still got me. It was.
Tell us
you know,
what deepfake is, just
Does anyone-
for those who don't know.
So deepfake is when a scammer will say, someone trying to scam you, maybe get money from you or something, is either mimicking your face, your voice, or both in a video. And this one that happened to me, it was a voice. Someone who was pretending to be my old business coach, sounded exactly like her, had enough information to sound very legitimate. And once she started asking me for money, I was like, this is a scam. So these things very much happen. They are very real, and it's something to really be cognizant of and aware of. So this responsible lens of AI is so critically important. We want to make sure we are using AI in the most responsible way and are very good stewards of this technology. Now, back to the question about regulation. Right now, in today's market, in the global market, the EU has defined the EU AI Act. If any of you have heard of this before, it is the most robust AI regulation in the world today. Nothing else exists like it today. It is the first of its kind, but many countries are taking information from the EU AI Act and are applying it to their own countries. I was in Dubai earlier this year in April, speaking at an event with banking, the banking industry, and the future of AI and banking, and they are very passionate about AI. They're very hungry for AI, and they're investing trillions of dollars into infrastructure, education. But one of the biggest policies is understanding how they can develop their own policies and regulations around AI within the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. So those are some of the ways you can think about applying those different regulations and policies that are in the world today, but also making sure they are related to Africa, what really makes the most sense for Africa in context.
And again, let me just repeat that question for you, Serge.
Thank you. Man, I'm learning so much. How about you guys? Can I get a show of hands? I'm excited. Okay, I'm just going to repeat this. What policies should governments adopt to support responsible AI use in business? I know that's your passion, the business side.
Yeah. So she answered pretty much most of everything, and because business, like you say, is my passion, I like to operate from a business mindset. I'm not the I guess I kind of Americanized myself a little too much, believing in the private sector, because I don't want to leave this in the hands of the politician to decide the policy. I think the genesis of AI was the business sector, and it took them a long while to actually even catch on. In fact, I think the European Union is probably the first to come up with an act. We haven't. Okay, there you go. So I rather see the business community get together, see what we can put in place to remedy to these issues. And the first thing that can come in mind right now is cybersecurity. It's probably something that we need to beef up and make sure that cybersecurity becomes a much more taken serious sector in order to address this type of issues. And education is a key thing, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Thank you. In saying that, and Serge, I'm gonna pose this to you first. As being an expert in the industries that you work with and everything that you've seen, what industries stand to benefit most from AI in the next 5 years? Is there a particular industry especially for our small business owners?
For small business.
Yeah.
I may be biased because I have a background in agriculture. I think agriculture is the number one stepping stone for Africa if we want to come out of the situation that we are in. It's and agriculture is still so, I want to say, artisanal, that we don't realize that industrializing our agriculture sector can diversify first our economies and create more jobs. It's still the number one creator of jobs, I think, across the world, but mainly in developing countries. Now, if we, the business community, can figure out how to help these farmers, and not just our farmers, the entire food chain, meaning the entire supply chain. Because when we think agriculture, everybody think the farm.
Yeah.
But nobody realized that we are a retail store. Now we have Uber Eats. Uber Eats is essentially part of the agricultural marketing channel. Why? Because we pick food from restaurants. So restaurants are connected to distributors. And distributors are connected to farmers. And that is a sector that hasn't been developed. So to me, if you ask me, I may be biased, I have to look into the number. Agriculture is the number one sector that we need to all focus on, especially for small business owners, because that's the easy entry point. When we start talking mining and things of that nature, we're talking million. Now, I'm not doubting that you may have access to millions, but if you really want to go ahead and help a community, help see a country developing itself with this new revolution, agriculture will be a place to start. Yeah.
Sarah.
I could not agree more. I think there's so many incredible opportunities for AI in the agriculture sector. I mean, I was reading about a fascinating case study it's a solution called Twiga Farms. I think I'm saying it right. It's out of Kenya, but it's doing exactly what you're saying and finding small farms around Kenya and being able to distribute and finding the demand, more of that supply and demand balance of being able to say, okay, we need this crop over here right now because the higher demand is here. So incredible use of AI. I think agriculture is absolutely going to take so much advantage of AI. I'll also touch on finance and healthcare. So finance, incredible opportunities for AI with things like financial crimes, fraud detection and alerts. Mauritius I'll have to check real quick. Mauritius Commercial Bank. Sorry, I had to make sure I had that right. Mauritius Commercial Bank is already implementing this and already seeing amazing success with AI in these types of use cases. Also in the healthcare space, I was reading about a case there's a solution called NurseBot out of Ghana, which is a solution that is mostly telemedicine, so being able to reach rural communities that don't have access maybe to a hospital. So it allows you to get healthcare advice, diagnosis, and things like that via a virtual nurse, essentially. So some really amazing case studies, and I think incredible sectors to take advantage of AI.
If I can,
And these two sectors, I mean, I mentioned agriculture, and she added up healthcare. It's not just that you can make money, but you also will be transforming communities. Very transformative. Yes.
On that same note, thinking about education, small business, and individuals cross using AI, what should universities and technical institutions do to prepare students for AI careers? Students, whether they're students that are looking for professional development or just in high school and college. I'll start with you, Sarah, and then Sir.
Yes, great question. And like I was alluding to earlier, right, there's this huge demand for AI skills in this job market and students who are hungry to learn. So how do we really bridge that gap in a university standpoint? It's not just about students, majoring in computer science and data science. I really see it as integrating AI into university curriculum. So how can I use AI in accounting? How can I use it in marketing and finance? So really, again, that second bucket I was mentioning earlier, how do we prepare students to use AI with their role so they continue to grow and learn these skills and be better prepared for that second bucket and maybe the third bucket of new jobs and new opportunities being created today. So, but I also think, beyond just students, I think the workforce needs that whole holistic upskilling as well. So I am already in marketing, I'm a content writer. How can I use AI within my specific role? So I think very specific, industry-specific, role-specific training, I think is going to be very key in that upskilling of our current workforce. I mean, you can't just go from the skills you learned 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, they're not going to be relevant anymore. So that continuous learning is so critically important to the current workforce. But I'll also say on the leadership side as well. So being able to lead now in times of AI is very critical. So how do you make decisions as a leader about what data centers I want to invest in, what infrastructure, what AI solutions I'm going to invest in? We were discussing earlier, there's about 80 to 90% of AI implementations, pilot programs fail. And these are leaders making decisions or sort of grasping at the nearest AI solution, expecting to plug it in the wall and it magically works. Like, that's not how this works. So I think it's really critical for our leaders, our government officials, establishing policies around governance and responsible AI to really educate themselves as well.
Well, I think she covered the entire spectrum.
Is
Yeah.
there anything that we need to think about as it relates to Africa directly?
So literally what she just mentioned, this is exactly where Africa is, because we'll need this company. We have one of the major company. The company is named Cobalt, K-O-B-O-L-D. It's in the mining sector, but they will be utilizing AI to do mining exploration. What used to take 10 years or more, because when it comes to mining, that's what people don't realize, that it's not a sector that anybody can just jump in. It's very attractive because you hear millions and people can easily become rich, but it's not for the weak-minded and the non-expert. But here comes a company based, I believe, what is it, West Virginia? Well, it's an American company, and they raised up to $1 billion. And they're, as we speak right now, in the region of Manono, which is right there in the middle of the country. And they're going to be investing $1 billion utilizing AI to collect data information to mine. And they are hoping to cut down that 10-year long-lasting effort that classic mining exploration company usually take to 5 years. So it's I think our government have to also, I guess, jump on board, like she said, make sure that we hire people like her who really understand this landscape of AI to make sure that there is some regulation that are put in place. But again, like I said earlier, I'm much more of a business entrepreneur. I like the private sector to lead. So therefore, I want private, small businesses to get together, be part of consortium. I mean, I'm in the midst of creating a consortium here. We'll be collaborating with different organizations such as hers and the Global Strategy Impact of Paul Nelson and anybody else who's interested to actually go ahead and see how we can get into these opportunities. And that's what, out of that, we can come up with policies and things of that nature to dictate that, where the government should stand when it comes to AI. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is it. We are closing our conversation here. Is there anything that I did not ask that you are chomping at the bit to share with our member audience? Did we cover everything?
Yes,
We covered a lot.
we should wait for.
What do you guys think? What do you think? Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I enjoyed your expertise. I learned a lot. And
I'm sorry, I can't see.
yes,
for the
questions.
audience? Yeah.
So let me stand up. I'm short here, so I gotta
Got it.
jump a little bit. Okay.
What?
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and ask a question that we perhaps did not cover? Please come.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Salome, and I much enjoyed, the teaching of tonight. The reason why I'm really interested in AI is that I use it a lot, right? I'm not a designer of AI tools, but I use it. So, and I'm also interested, in knowing how do I translate that interest and knowledge, from using AI to become kind of an advanced technician of the tool, right? Because you guys were talking about how you could use AI for bridging the language gap when somebody from the US, for example, is going to Africa for business. So some limitation that I see here is maybe, the real-time use of it. Do you have any insights about how, if I want to go, in the field and connect, in person with people on the ground, how do I actually leverage AI to do that? So that's one question. The second question is that I'm currently, as I said, using AI to develop educational programs for healthcare providers in countries, Francophone countries, to actually bridge a language gap, from French to English, for example, and it could be vice versa. I want to go beyond that and see how do I really, apply or use AI in the healthcare system for healthcare provision. You talked about, being a remote health provider and so forth, but how do I go beyond that to make more accurate, I would say, diagnosis for patients? And maybe send reminders for somebody who needs to take, medication. I mean, do you have additional insights on that? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the second question first because that's Sarah. And then I'm going to have our business expert here answer the first question. Which one? Do you want me to do the first one first? Which one?
Actually, I want to take the second.
You want to take the second? Okay. Well, then we'll let you do it. Go ahead.
You sure?
I'm sure.
You go. Yeah.
So both of you can answer both questions then. Two different perspectives.
So, well,
Yeah, so for our dear healthcare technician, we worked on a project in 2022 for preventive healthcare. And at the time, we weren't even discussing AI. And I remember how hard it was to not only get to the data and collect them, and I believe now you have a much easier time to, with the little bit of data that you have, case study that has been mentioned here, to I think the data can now be generated as you implement your healthcare model program. I'll give you an example. So we found out that African cities, and I don't know if I hope you're not going to contradict me, major African city beginning to develop the same symptoms that major developing country have in terms of comorbidity. We're talking about cardiovascular diseases, and it's an issue that when I left Congo initially left Congo, of course, in 2003, we weren't even talking about, right? We weren't talking about cardiovascular issues. We weren't talking about cancers and obesity. Now, not only mobility is an issue, but we even have the worst kind of mobility. Now, everybody drives a car. For some reason, for the life of me, I can't. That's why I laugh when I hear people say, I don't want to go invest in Africa because they have a lot of challenges. There's no opportunity. When I'm like, okay, I go to Africa with one phone and I see people, everybody with 3 phones and 2 cars, and the traffic jam is ridiculous. People literally sleep on the street, driving from work to home. At least for a city like Kinshasa. And I believe it's the same thing for Lagos. I believe it's the same thing for Nairobi, at least on the number that we were looking. So Kinshasa is facing the huge issue of obesity and therefore cardiovascular issue. But here's the problem. They don't know. There's a difficulty in monitoring. Access to medical aid is, if not inexistent, highly difficult. So the project was going to targeting innovative way, like she said, telemedicine. Now we all have phone. I said, I go there with one phone, and my African brothers and sisters there carry 3 phones, and they're all connected. And what did they use the internet for? Well, to be on Facebook and WhatsApp. So we can use applications, but these applications that can integrate AI, machine learning capability to create, I guess, health, and I'll probably let you imagine several kind of scenario of how you can now create a medical profile by just either having each institution, like we have here at Walmart, a blood pressure, monitor. So, and then with that blood pressure monitor, having an innovative technology to connect that to their application, and therefore people can actually, because they can't afford the doctors, they can have this electronic doctor that can give them at least an idea of where to stand when it comes to their health. So that's for question number 2. So I can already see a tremendous evolution. And of course it will come with, and I'm not an expert in medical field here, you are. In other medical fields, professional can speak more on the danger of doing this and not doing that. But I think at this point, what I've witnessed over there, people don't know what they have. And usually, most of the people here are African. We usually, when things happen to us because we don't know, what do? We start thinking of witchcraft and so on and so forth. Right? There you go. So I think AI can play a big role in equipping the telephone that we already have in learning people's habits and giving them a sense of their health care and in the sense of preventing certain disease that can be, that's not otherwise prevented as we speak right now.
Try to add, that was a really great answer. I'll add my 30-second little spiel. There's incredible opportunity with AI, with all the data we have about ourselves. We're talking blood pressure monitor, you're talking, there's smart watches, devices, there are having our human genomic information, our DNA, being able to load into a system to get personalized healthcare treatments. I mean, this sounds like a really crazy futuristic idea, but is absolutely possible with this AI world that we're in. But caveat, make sure we're using that data responsibly, ethically, data privacy for healthcare. So I want to make sure we're doing all of that. And I think to go back to the first question, growing in a career in AI, right, trying to really boost your skills and meeting the right people, I think it sounds like you're on the right track there. I think learning those prompt engineering practices and skills, like what are those industry standards of how to prompt effectively is a really great place to start. If you've never used AI before, I think that's a really great foundation. And then really getting in with an industry business. I mean, we're talking that second bucket of jobs we were talking about earlier of how do we apply that AI to a specific business unit, a specific role. So don't just think being in an AI box alone, but thinking how to use AI with a specific role in a specific industry.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there anyone else before Henry comes up?
This question is for you, Nasserj. You guys were talking about education and also regulation and all of that. And we talk about how the European Union came up with an act. One of the big problems right here in the U.S. at universities is how to integrate AI with the education system. Because although there are many uses for AI, the problem that instructors and students are having right now is that students just want to cheat with AI. All they do, and we talk about that analytical aspects of humans. That's what humans do. They need to keep the analytical skills. And the problem right now is that the cheating is killing the analytical skills. And so what's gonna happen is nobody's gonna be able to think. So I wanted to know, in your world, what are you guys thinking? Because that's a huge problem we need to solve. Otherwise, I hear him talking about he wants the private organization to be upfront. The problem is if government doesn't come in and make any rule, nobody's gonna trust the organizations because they are in for money. And so if we have to solve this problem, we need the government to think and come up with how we're gonna solve this issue. Otherwise, what's good is gonna become bad because it's already a problem at universities.
Thank you so much for this question. This is a really important topic. How do we make sure our students are not cheating using these AI tools? The high school I went to actually had an honor code system that if you were caught cheating, you went to the honor code and plead your case kind of thing. A lot of schools have these kind of programs. And recently I actually talked to my old headmaster and we talked about this AI in the school kind of issue. And he said, I think what constitutes cheating in 1985 and cheating in 2025 probably is different. So it's something to think about a little bit more, but I think your point is so clear. We need to make sure our students are actually learning the material and not just the brain drain of having AI do all the work for them. They still need to be analytical and use their critical thinking skills. So I think at the university level, every university needs to establish their AI policies. There's a lot of really great applications of AI in the classroom. I think about personalized learning so much. Students who are like to listen like auditory, like there are ways you can learn from a podcast now, taking your notes and quizzes and turning it into a study guide that's all in your ears, and a podcast is incredible. Like those are amazing use cases of AI, but we have to make sure we're actually teaching our students to learn the material and not just have them use cheating across the board. I recently gave a generative AI training program to students from the Charlotte Country Day School, and that was probably the first thing I said in that session. I'm not here to teach you to cheat with these tools, but I'm here to teach you how to effectively use these tools as students, how to help you study, how to help you do research, how to really help you create a plan for college. I mean, there's really incredible applications of AI for these students, but we just have to be very thoughtful and mindful, and the universities also need to make sure they develop their policies on this.
And this is an area that many universities are looking at prompting, the analytics behind it. What are you asking the AI tool to do? And so I hope she answered. I don't know if it's the answer you're looking for, but hopefully you got some answers there. Is there any, did you need to rebuttal, or is there anything else?
No, the reality is that's where we're gonna need the people that are intelligent in AI to think about. We need that. If
Yes.
that's not there, what's good can become a problem.
Mhm.
So the people that understand how, that's not my expertise, right? So the people that understand how AI work, how the technology work, need to think about that. What can we give this university so that they can continue to teach without just telling the student don't use the AI at all?
Right.
Because
Well, they're gonna
they should
use it.
use it for the right reason, so
Yeah.
they're not cut out.
Right,
Yes.
giving guidelines
Yeah.
of this is okay to use it in this case, but
Yes.
not this one. I think those strict guidelines, I think, are really gonna be helpful.
Yeah. Henry, where are we on time? We're good? Do we have one more? I can take one more question? Or is that, okay, I think you had
What's
it.
your third question?
You have a question.
Yeah.
Please come.
I was just gonna.
Just to make sure
Yeah, I gotta
everyone,
be
you got the
course.
voice.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
go
I
right
have a
ahead.
question for you actually. So with how AI is going, right? Do you think that there's any sort of skills or different learnings that people should kind of shy away from with giving that AI can actually do that? I'll give you an example. I'm a software engineer by trade, and I think a lot of the boilerplates when we build applications are now easier. It's even harder to hire out of college students because it's a lot of the solving bugs and all that kind of stuff. It's not really needed anymore because AI can actually auto-generate those. Should people start thinking about shying away from certain learnings and certain skills to just target different kind of things, or should people still kind of, from that analytical standpoint, still go through that same process of learning how to do basic things and gradually go up? Or what do you think about that?
That's a tough question as far as like a career path to be like, well, she told me to major in this and not this, and now I can't do this job anymore. That's a hard question. But you're totally right on the software development side. I've been talking to students who have transitioned from computer science major, software engineering type of roles into more data science roles. I think data is always going to be a very key skill. You need to understand what's happening. When you think of AI, the data is the fuel to feed the AI engine, the jet engine that is AI. So if your data is biased, messy, unreliable, you're going to get a biased, messy result at the end. So data is still such a critical element. So I am seeing some more students moving out of the more computer, I mean, we still need software engineers. We still need that skill, but like you're saying, these entry-level roles are harder to come by. But if you can specialize and really understand data, like data is this new currency in this AI world that we're in. So having that deeper understanding of, is it business data, a certain industry, whatever that is, I think is really going to take you far in this new AI era that we're in.
Serge, do you have anything
Well,
to add to that?
well, not being an expert, but being part of this world as we all are, it's, I believe, what's the name of the gentleman that used to do videos to teach kids? Khan Academy?
Oh, yeah.
He addressed this issue, and I think he nailed it, right? We can't be afraid of AI because AI is here to stay. So what needs to happen is the people with the good mindset, people who are wearing like my sister over there, we all have to get involved to actually create this data that you just mentioned in order to create the standard. And even when I mentioned that I'm more on the private sector to influence the government, it's essentially that. It's like we shouldn't just wait for some old politician who probably don't even understand AI come up with policies that's going to mess up everything. We'd rather have all of these business people investing time, money, and intelligence to come up with policy ideas that will then be, of course, implemented by the politician and the policymakers. So yeah, to all the people in this room, you are a selective, you came here because you care and you want to know more. So people like yourself can actually make changes when it comes to this new revolution that we're embarking. I mean, it's here to stay. That's all I can add.
Well, I think you added good stuff. Thank you.
I saw your hand. Did you have another question, or did you get that answer?
No, it's actually a comment regarding, the sister in the back's concern about cheating using AI. I think at this point there are already counter AI, right? To actually assess assignments to know if the student use AI
Yes.
or not.
Yes.
And I think one of them is GPT-0. That's already out for that, very purpose. And I'm sure that there will be more tools being generated, and people are actually forward thinking about that aspect. We need to still have smart people who can think without the machine.
Right.
Because the human brain, even though it is slower and can be lazy sometimes, it's still more performant,
Yes.
right, than
Yes.
the machine. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
I think
Gentleman in
what
back.
we're all missing though is AI's a tool. It's a tool. It's a hammer, it's a gun, it's a knife. What we have to really work on, particularly for little ones like this, because it's gonna be their world. Right? Is the moral implications of what they do. Their cheating has nothing to do with AI. Their cheating has to do with their training as a kid. It says this
Yes.
is right and this is wrong. Whether you're Muslim or Buddhist or Christian, there's always right and wrong. And I think it is on us as parents and grandparents and great-grandparents to make sure that these little ones understand that fact. Because here's the deal, it's always gonna be folks that are gonna cheat. Okay? How many times, that's why what they call it, white collar crime? It's cheating.
Right.
But the deal is, what are the moral implications of what you're taught? It's no different than stealing cookies from a cookie jar. Okay? If you don't teach the kids what's right and what's wrong, there is no law, there is no counter AI that you can invent, because someone will come up with a counter to AI. Okay? But you cannot mistake the fact of teaching people and impressing upon our young people what's right and what's wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
Ethics,
That's what it's
ethics and
about,
morals.
ethics.
Yes. Henry, is there any question that you have over there? No? Okay. All right. Well, this concludes our panel discussion. Please put your hands together for our panelists here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. I've learned a lot. Sarah, thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, I'm gonna give this back to you, Henry, and I'll move the stage around.
How we feeling, Charlotte? Come on, I need more energy. How are we feeling, Charlotte? There we go. That's good. So we're gonna go out and take like a 5 and 10 minute break. During that time, you can go out and network, get to check out our international house, and also during that time, we will be doing the winners. So if you haven't bought a raffle ticket yet, I would go